be the summit with
There we go.
there we go.
Oh,
And we are. Oh, almost.
almost.
Perfect. All right, now you're on. All right.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the third episode of Blueberry Season. I am Corey, one of your hosts, and we are so happy to be back. Wow, that was a mouthful of words for some reason. Um, so yeah, welcome back to episode 3. If you haven't already, go back and make sure you watch the last 2 episodes. They are jam-packed full with tons of information. Episode 2 had some pretty cool guests on with Theo and Christian coming on. And so, yeah, we are super excited to be back. Today, we have an amazing episode for y'all featuring one of our full time staff. He's pretty cool, um, or at least something like that. Most people say he's pretty cool, I reckon. um, but yeah, so I'm going to turn it on over to Clifton so he can tell you just a little bit more about him. And then we're going to kick it over to Braxton so that way he can dive right into himself. So, Clifton?
Thank you, Corey. Welcome back to Blueberry Season, everyone. It's the spookiest scouter around over here. And I would like to introduce a very good friend of mine. We have Braxton Rhodes. He is from the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia. He started originally as seasonal staff several summers ago and is now a part of our full-time staff. One of his like general, or I guess most notable title is probably him being our full-time family adventure camp manager. But he wears a million hats. So we will definitely be diving into that later. But just welcome Braxton, everybody, to our podcast. So we're super excited to have you.
Well, I'm excited to be on the third episode and for also the first time doing Blueberry Season.
Yes.
So I'm super excited to actually kind of chill and talk outside of our busy world that we have
of
out there.
course.
So.
No, 100%. So I think just to kick it off, this is kind of how Corey and I like to open our episodes. Especially with myself being a huge shopaholic. What do you think, as of right now, is your favorite item in the bunker? And don't worry, it doesn't have to be set in stone because luckily I get to answer this question every week. And my answer always changes because I just love our trading post. But
let's see here. I think right now, I am a big fan of the crazy like t-shirts, polo shirts they have in there. It's got like every single thing you can think about outdoor recreation, like hockey pucks and skateboards and bikes, and it's like a super crazy Hawaiian style shirt. I think that is probably my favorite right now because it always gives me a chuckle when I see people wearing it. So.
Oh yeah, mine. So I'm a big hat guy. Like you'll never catch me anywhere on the summit without wearing a hat. Mine would probably be, we actually have it here today. I'm not wearing it, even though I do love this hat. But this cream hat right here with this like kind of faded logo, it's like super cool and I love it. I think it's one of the best hats that we sell besides this one. Like this one's obviously
That's
super
a pretty
awesome.
Good one. I
but
would say, yeah.
That one's also pretty awesome. Clifton, what this week? What is your favorite bunker item?
Well, actually, this week, this works out perfectly. And this wasn't planned, despite everyone thinking it probably was. But last night, it was slightly chilly. And after my flannel I was wearing last night got wet because of the thunderstorm, I was like, man, I wish I had my Summit quarter zip because these things are super cozy. They're super lightweight. They're perfect for kind of those like semi-chilly evenings. So I was really excited that we had this today because now we can kind of showcase it. So the Summit quarter zips are really great.
Oh yeah, 100%. So Braxton, we're going to just go ahead and dive on into this because I know me and you talk fairly often, but I feel like there's still more to know about you. It's like every time I talk to you, it's like unwrapping a piece of a present. It's like, oh, we're getting deeper, interesting. So let's talk about. So obviously you're full time now, but I want to dive into your seasonal experience. What did you do before you were a full time manager? And even if there was something that you did previously that like helped you get into working at the summit, I want to hear a little bit about that. So
yeah, for sure. I'll go with how I got to the summit first, and then I'll kind of work my way up. I'm a little bit different than most scouters. One of the cool things I say is I never did any scouting in the States. I lived in the Middle East in places called Qatar and Abu Dhabi, and I did all of my scouting over there from tenderfoot all the way, or from scout all the way to eagle. I did my Eagle project in Dubai. I had, a really cool project in the ocean for scuba diving. And it was through my scouting career, they said you had to go to a national jamboree and had to go to a national jamboree. So I eventually ended up going to the first jamboree here in 2013 and did the jamboree, loved it. It was super rainy, super muddy, that jamboree, but I still loved it. And then I went back home, went overseas actually, and you kind of just went on with my life. And then that was probably when I was around 16. When I turned 19, I got an email that said, "Hey, you're now like of the age of 19. You can work here at the summits. Do you want to work for the summer camp?" Did no idea that there was a summer program. And I eventually just said yes right away. I got the email, and I think that's like 7 minutes later, I said yes, signed the application, sent it in. And that summer, then 2019, I started working here. And I started as a rover. I started in what I might arguably say might be the best program, the Summit Experience.
Yes, you are correct.
But arguably more so, the actual best job of being a rover, because you get to do all the stuff, you get to talk to so many people, and I'm a very casual conversation person, so I love to talk to people. I love to learn about new stories and different people that come through the summit. So it was like the perfect job for me. So I did that in 2016. I did 2 years of that, of rovering. And then back then we had another position called the coordinator, which is kind of like their manager. I did that for 2 years. And then I became the program director for another about year. But outside of that, I also did some fall programs. So I came here and worked in the fall, worked in the winter. And then I left. I was done with the summit. I thought I was like, adios. I'm going to go get a big boy job somewhere.
That's what we all say.
And never come back. And that was in 2021. And then I was working somewhere else in Virginia with a warehouse company. And then I got a call from one of the team members here. And he said, "Hey, we got this really cool job. It's called Family Camp. It's a brand new thing in the Scouts. We think you might be good for it." So I came here, interviewed, eventually got it. And now my role, I've adapted my role a little bit, but primarily I'm over the family operations. So like vacation experiences, and then the training center as well. So I help with a lot of scout trainings, and that's kind of been my full-time gig for the last year and a half. So it's been a interesting journey all the way from the Middle East to the States, and never thinking I would ever work for the Boy Scouts of America, but here we are. So
yeah, love it. Oh, that's so exciting and just super interesting.
mm-hmm.
I'm really glad that like we're able to kind of showcase that a little bit for sure.
Yeah.
Another talking point that I have been like dying to know, and I've like actually in all of my summers I've never asked you where it came from. So, if you work here, or maybe you know people pretty well that work here, we have our own little version of Kilroy. Braxton actually has a custom Kilroy brand that he brings out on very special occasions. Throughout the season, he like dresses up the little Kilroy guy and like puts them all over. And I'm just like super intrigued. Like, how did you get into Kilroy? Like, when did like it kind of start? Like, how do you like think of like ideas for how to like, kind of dress them up a little bit and like put them around?
Yeah. So Kilroy started with my dad. So he's the one that introduced me to it.
Okay.
And so Kilroy is not a me thing. It was just something that I
sure.
like, I thought it was kind of cool, and I started doing it. And so we were actually on a camp out in Doha, in the middle of the desert, and he was just kind of talking with us in the group, and he mentioned the story of Kilroy, and I thought that was just a cool little guy that kind of hangs out everywhere. He then told us like the actual history of Kilroy, which was based off of World War II, and it was considered like one of the when the Allies would go to places, they would put the Kilroy as where they've been. And you could arguably say it's the first meme in our 21st century, or first image that kind of made people laugh. And so I just kind of took that with my own. And part of the thing with Kilroy is that he's always in hidden places in plain sight. And so I started making little printouts, as you saw, and like putting them in places like under people's cups or like in a window seal. I got a brand eventually. And then I expanded the idea where I'm like, well, let me put a Christmas hat on him, or let me put a pumpkin on the wall. And so for Halloween, and I started adding different holiday themes. And it's kind of always just been, my little thing here while I've done Kilroy. So.
Oh, wonderful. Yes. Oh, I just love that. I love seeing him around. So like, just like, if like, even if everyone ever gets frustrated, you can send him straight to me, because I love seeing the little Kilroys all over. Like every so often when I get a little bored and spontaneous, I frequently think about getting a Kilroy tattoo just to kind of
Oh, really?
just to kind of like commemorate my
Man, I feel
experience.
like I need to get one.
Well, like I just think it's like, I mean, obviously, like I have several tattoos, and most of them are pretty like meaningful. And obviously, like I'm not to discount Kilroy or anything, but I think it's always fun to have like just more of like a fun, one like fun tattoo per se.
Yeah, for sure.
And that'd be definitely like a kind of a fun, cool way, kind of like if you know, like kind of a thing to commemorate my experience here. But yeah, I love seeing him around. So do not stop with the Kilroy, and I'm sure
I
Corey.
will definitely not be stopping.
All right. So, one thing moving forward, as Clifton mentioned, you have very unique things that you do, like Kilroy. One of the things that I found unique whenever I first come here in 2023 was the employee wellness. And to my knowledge, you were the one who kind of like kickstarted that.
Yeah.
And so I want to pick your brain about that. Like, what was the incentive behind starting that and the purpose and
Yeah, for
all
sure.
that behind it?
I would say it's kind of a grassroots movement, I would call it, at the summit. It really started back when I was a seasonal employee. And we just recognized that, summer work is hard. I mean, we're exhausted. We work sometimes anywhere from 8 to 12 hours a day for 6 days a week, trying to deliver an amazing program to everyone that comes here. And so it was myself and a group of other seasonal employees. Like, we kind of got together and like, what can we do to make our lives a little better? And the original idea just started with only let's get discounts to local restaurants. And so we ended up calling, dozens and dozens and dozens of restaurants, and then got a bunch of discounts. So then we kind of took that idea further, and then we created like recognition programs and kind of like this bottom up movement of like, how do we respect and how do we recognize each other? And ever since then, especially now as a full-time employee, like, we are the summit by our people. And I think that we need to respect and, provide as much wellness to our employees as possible to be able to deliver a great program. If we don't focus on our staff first, then we don't deliver a great program.
Absolutely.
So I kind of taken that mantle a little bit longer, a little bit farther, and have added things in where, doing weekly gatherings or, recognitions or some type of stuff that, recognizes our employees are what makes the summit. And still doing that to this day. So
Absolutely. And I know I especially love it, especially the one we did not this week, but last week, being the 2024 Summit Staff Cornhole Champion right here.
Yes,
Yeah, so
you did win.
So me and Lord Rogers, we smoked the competition
You did.
and a blowout win of 11-2 to get first place. So I know I especially enjoyed it. And even last night with the ice cream social, like, I know people were loving it, digging it. And I know there's other ones in the works for the rest of the summer. And so I know, especially because I'll talk to the seasonal people and be like, hey, what do you think about this? And they're like, oh, I love it. It's like something new and different that, say they worked at a previous summer camp. They're like, my camp didn't do this, and this makes it like more enjoyable. And that's one of the things that I find unique about this summit is, doing things different from other camps to provide not only a transformational experience for the scouts, but also for the staff or participants, but for the participants and for the staff. And so I absolutely love it. I think it's great.
Well, I know one of the things too is like, while I might, help a lot more with the coordinating of those things, what's really awesome is that all of our full-time team, up all the way to the GM, like, will go to those things.
Absolutely.
And he'll attend. He'll even put on some of it. I know he helped run the cornhole tournament himself. And so, like, I love that the full-time team here really does care, not only about the full-time team, but also all those hundreds of seasonal staff that come only for 8 to 9 weeks in some cases.
Absolutely.
And care about what they do here. I know you're running a staff event in a couple weeks, I think. Is that right? You're doing the karaoke night for us?
Yeah, we were keeping that a little under wraps, kind of as a surprise. But yes, we are doing staff karaoke here in a couple weeks. So super excited for that. I'm not going to ruin the theme yet. No spoilers coming out. But it's definitely going to be awesome. Like,
well, I'm looking forward to it.
We were brainstorming and we were like, oh yeah, this is definitely like, no questions, without a shadow of a doubt, this is 100% what we're doing. And so, yeah, I just hope you bring your best voice because
always.
Oh yeah,
always
absolutely.
bring my best.
So before we get too far in, quickly want to shout out Garden Ground Outfitters for this amazing merch that we have on the table. If you would like to go get some for yourself, be sure you go to store.summitbsa.org to get yourself some merch and use the discount code Summit24 for 25% off your online order. Like Clifton and myself and Braxton said, there's absolutely amazing things out there. Super comfortable, super wearable. I know I've talked about fishing shirts in the past, and this one in particular, I absolutely love it. Worth every penny that I spent on it. And so, yeah, absolutely love it. So the next thing that I want to dive into, because like you said, you do a lot of that family coordinating. And one thing that you help with is the outside groups like Nail and the church groups and stuff like that.
I do, yeah.
And so I want to talk a little bit about that because I know for the past couple of days I've been up there with the church group that we have right now, taking pictures of them, enjoying what they have in the evening for their evening program. And I know the kids up there are absolutely loving it. And so I want to dive a little bit into that, talk about that, and possibly how other people, if they're watching, could get their group to come out here.
Yeah, for sure. That's something new that the summit's been doing for these last, I would say, just almost 2 years now, is inviting groups of all kinds, especially groups that focus on youth delivery or youth development of some kind, to come here and experience the summit. I mean, I don't have to convince you guys that this is the absolute best place to come and experience something. But yeah, I help a lot with, bringing in some of those outside groups. The church groups is definitely a big one. It's more of a conglomerate of people help with that. So we have a whole team that are dedicated to church groups and bringing them in, because sometimes those church groups can get like 200 to 300 people. So it takes a good amount of staff to put that on. Another really big place we've expanded is our field trips. So it's not really during the summer, but during the spring and fall, which we call our second season here. We have a team of staff that actually run the field trips. And the field trip, we did about 800 students from local schools in this last cycle, and we're planning to easily break over 1,000 students, roughly about 15 schools coming here, and we provide zip lining or some type of climbing activity or team building activities for them. And then the training side of stuff, we bring a lot of scout outside groups, so like the nail program for the leadership academy programs, they come here and do a lot of training. They'll stay here for a week or two to do training with us. But I mean, we're continuing to expand, and I don't necessarily help with the business stuff. So there's a lot of conferences that come here now. There's a lot of weddings that come here now. There's just so many activities or programs or opportunities that we give to hundreds of groups. So, I mean, if you wanted to, you asked how do you reach us out? Like, going to our website, thesummitbsa.org, or Summit Events, or even the Family Adventure. Like, we do family reunions, so weddings, to pretty much every activity you can think of. So yeah, we're always happy to help put that on, especially for youth groups. So.
Love to hear it. Love to hear it. I really like a lot of our third-party groups. I love that we have weddings here. Family Adventure Camp is amazing. The nail participants usually always have a good time, so it's it's nice to have them around. And so and the field trips too. I think it's super exciting that we offer field trips, because especially growing up in Illinois, it's okay as far as outdoor recreation goes, but I think I definitely I would have loved when I was a kid if I could have gone somewhere like here for a field trip. So it's super exciting that we offer opportunities like that.
I mean, honestly, like the coolest one I think we put on was the longest one we put on this week or this year was they're from Ohio. It was an 8th grade class, and they brought 80 people, and they stayed for 3 days.
Oh, wow.
And they did pretty much everything we could provide in a 3-day period. So we were just moving.
Yeah.
I promised them at the beginning, is like, you're going to be exhausted by the time you're at the end of this thing. They didn't believe me. And at the end, they were like, all of our kids are falling asleep on the buses. So we did our jobs and gave a great program to them. So,
oh, that's great to hear. Also, kind of piggybacking off of that. So to kind of highlight just to, whether returners, other staff, even, potentially third-party customers, what is one of your favorite programs that we offer at the summit? I guess specifically as far as a program area. So I really love our zip lining and aerial sports. One of my favorites for sure. So what about you?
So I guess I'll pick two that kind of
for sure.
that give me that good experience. The first one is Canopy. So the tree to tree zip lining.
Yeah.
That was the first time I've ever done something like that, was when I first worked here, and I fell in love with it. It's relaxing. It's in the woods. Like, you get the lovely atmosphere, the smell and all the sounds. So the
Mhm.
canopy is definitely like one of those experiences that I haven't gotten tired of. It is continually just always great. And then another one, I like it just probably because I'm a little good at it, is what we call sporting arrows or lapore.
Oh, okay,
So
yeah.
when the foam disc gets shot in the
Yep.
air and you have
No,
to hit
always
them out.
super fun for sure.
I may have hit 18 in a round once, which is almost impossible. So I felt really proud of myself. And so now it's my like second favorite activity to do here. I probably could not do it again, but for some reason the stars aligned and I could do it
Mhm.
that one time. So,
Yeah.
but those are my two kind of favorite of all time here.
Oh, that's great to hear. We love that. I am also a big Canopy fan, so I
Mhm.
definitely 100% agree with you on that one.
Mhm.
And then so earlier we were talking about like our second season a little bit.
Mhm.
I know that like you have done like several second seasons. A bunch of our other guests thus far have also like stayed or like worked second season in some
Yeah.
capacity. So I think Corey and I would just love to hear a little bit more about like what second season kind of entails.
Yeah.
Just like some of the different roles that are available, just
Mhm.
kind of like just hear a little bit more about
For
it.
sure. I would say the easiest way to explain is in summer we're very separated in our programs. So like the shooting sport or the range target sports does specifically, shotgun shooting a rifle. Then you have aerial that specifically does canopy and zip lining. And then so forth and so on. Like lifeguards only do lifeguarding.
Mhm.
But in second season, it's a smaller operation. So we hire a smaller team, but we train them in like everything. So they're kind of like the jack of all trades staff. And so like this last second season in the spring, like one staff member had, NRA credentials to teach shotgun shooting. He could do the zip lines over at Eagles Flight. He can do the canopy. He could do archery. He even oversaw like aquatics activities, and he also got to help with weddings and things like that. So you really become this jack of all trades employee here versus just having one department area. And we look for people that have that that charisma, that ability to interact with lots of different people because their age range goes from 6 to 60
Mhm.
and beyond with the types of guests that we're getting in the second season. So that team is a really tight knit team. We do weekly activities together, and we do like our weekly meetings involve fun activities or going off property or
Yeah.
getting really deep in our team development, because we are one team here at the summit.
Yeah.
And that team of usually about 10 to 12 people are really powerful for delivering great experiences.
Awesome. Love to hear it. And I think for any of our seasonal staff watching, I believe second season applications are still open.
They're closing
Oh,
to tomorrow.
okay.
Yeah, they're
So
closing
if
tomorrow.
you're watching this
So they're still open.
seasonal staff, if you're watching this live as of right now, you
Yeah.
can still apply for
And
second season.
And if you miss it, you can still, reach out to me, and I'll see where we can play. It's not just second season. We also have other jobs.
Okay.
So what we call second season is like the program.
Yeah.
There is also our Summit Operations Center, which is our gates operations, our weather operations, our security. They run all fall and winter long. We have event support. We have wedding people. Like we hire probably roughly 30 to 40 people in the fall. And the program team is rough to 10, but there's so many other jobs and so many support roles that can be done here at the summit, not just in programs.
So I want to highlight a little bit. So we've briefly touched over Family Adventure Camp, but I really want to dive into that because that's one of the unique things that I find about here, where you can come here with your family
Mhm.
and still enjoy everything that the summit has to offer. And so, um, I just want to dive into that, talk about, all the different things that they have, different options, things of that nature. Just so that way, if people don't know,
Mhm.
they're able to have a little bit of a better knowledge and better understanding on what that is, what all they're able to do, and things of that nature.
Yeah, the Family Adventure program is a new program in the BSA. It just started 3 years ago, roughly 3 years ago, really about two. But it provides a great opportunity for any family, scouting or non-scouting related. They don't have to be in scouts to come and experience an outdoor vacation. And we're not the only ones that do it. Philmont in New Mexico and Seabase in Florida also do it. But we all kind of have our shticks. We have our things that we do. So at the summit, what we specifically do is lots of activities. So if you're a really outgoing family that's, you want to experience, zip lining and kayaking and then sleep in a luxury tent outside, that's kind of what our specialties in. So we're very much outdoor recreational focused. And I always like to, tell our family guests that come here, it's your little mini resort. And it's you get to decide what you want to do. We don't give you a schedule. We don't tell you to go to these places, these times. You are fully autonomous. You get to choose your adventure. And a lot of our families that come here appreciate that because they come here for the New River Gorge. They don't come here just for the summit. The New River Gorge, one of the newest of the national parks. I just brought in a guest today. Like, they're here to visit the bridge. They're here to visit West Virginia. And we thankfully were able to be that place where they could stay for a couple of nights in one of our luxury tents. Some of the people stay in our hotel as well. So we're not just activities, we're a location, we're a destination for a lot of travelers now. And then I'm super excited that we have that status and that we can provide, families the option to come.
So if you were to pick out one thing about working here, what would you say is your favorite thing about working here?
Hands down, the staff. You and we've already talked about the employee wellness side. I have a deep passion for making sure we all have fun, but also learn what we're doing. And you kind of mentioned, like, we provide transformational experiences for our scouts, our guests, our participants. But my goal here is that we provide experiences for our staff, and they help me get out of the bed in the morning and know that I have a great team to go work with, great coworkers to work with, and just a great, the 200 and some staff that work here, like, everyone's smiling. Everyone's, we're here for a purpose. We're here for transforming lives. And that is definitely one of the absolute best things about working here. For me personally, that is what gets me up to go to work, is working with our teams, working with our staff. I'm a big people person. I enjoy the stories. I enjoy conversations here. And that has always been a highlight since I started working seasonally, and has only gotten better since I started in 2016 working here. So
absolutely. So although we are here to talk about work, I also want to talk about off time. So what are some of your favorite local places to go to?
Yeah, I'm a big mini golf fan. I might selfishly say I had a mini golf record at my home mini golf course back in Virginia, and I held that for 2 years until Brandon came along. But I would say mini golfing is really one of my preferred places to go. There's a place called the Chocolate Moose. They got a mini golf course. They have ice cream. They got,
every episode.
Yeah, is it really?
Corey and I definitely have no caveats. Like, we love the Chocolate Moose. Like, some of my very best friends who are just locals, like, also work there. Like, we both love it very much. And it's just kind of exciting how we don't bring it up necessarily, but every single almost every single guest thus far has brought it up. So,
and it's a typical place for a lot of our staff events.
No, for sure.
We'll take them out there.
Yeah,
there's also another place that
we love you, Chocolate Moose. Yeah, if you're watching, the summit loves you.
We really do. I really like. You've seen the bridge. I've seen it multiple times. But when I take guests there, or I go on one of the hikes, there's lots of little local hikes. Those are really fun to go to, and I like the movies. That's one of our employee wellness things, is going to movies here, and I personally like the movies a lot. So just going to the movie theater. That's one of the nice things about the summit, is that we're close to a lot of things, and so we can do a lot of stuff here, whether it's outdoor recreation or raft if you're on your off time, or go to the movies, or even just travel to a local venue. There's a lot amount of locations here. So
yeah, no, I could not agree more. I think one of the best things about the summit, and one of the main, obviously, because I did want to change a pace. I obviously did. I wanted to try something new. I had always wanted to work at a camp, and just be able to give back to the program that did so much for me. But when I still had to think about it, logistically and realistically, and I think one of the greatest things about our just property and location in general is that you really get the best of both worlds. And I was talking about with another friend the other day, and how she lives here, and how she is local, and she lives closer to the Buckley area. So how you have more kind of comfortable options that everyone has, and those kind of more creature comfort activities, but then you can kind of venture towards Fayetteville, and all of the the national park, and not all the outdoor recreation. There's just so much to do around here, and one of the biggest perks is having access to just such a really cool, interesting,
Oh yeah.
fun area.
And the
So,
local like restaurants and eateries are really
yes,
nice here. Like going into Fayetteville, Oak Hill, there's like 10 to choose from. So like you could
100%.
rotate every other day if you want and not be bored.
For sure.
So I definitely frequent some of those places. The Secret Sandwich Society, and the Cafe 110 is one of my preferred restaurants as well. So like there's just a lot of like local passion and
No,
local
definitely.
devotion here. So that's what I love about this place in general is that everyone cares about what they do.
Absolutely.
No, I couldn't agree more. And that kind of actually dives us perfectly into one of my next questions. So I am like a brunch person. I love a good breakfast. I love breakfast burritos, breakfast tacos, breakfast pizza. I'm a caffeine fiend. So obviously having such good access to Fayetteville is like really convenient, especially for someone like me. What would you say in Fayetteville specifically? Because I think a lot of people kind of know like the big three. What do you think is your favorite like breakfast spot in Fayetteville?
You probably already heard this on the show. I would say my favorite breakfast is probably the Cathedral Cafe.
Okay.
And fantastic brunches, but fantastic breakfasts as
Yeah.
well. The problem with that place is they're so popular.
Yes.
It's hard to get a seat there because it's always packed. So good for them, but I wish I could get seats more often. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. My personal favorite is I really like both. I love Fayetteville in general. I really miss it when I'm back home in the Midwest. But I've recently started to kind of lean towards What Iron.
Okay.
I really like their breakfast burrito. And arguably in all of the coffee, even though Fayetteville has wonderful coffee options, and there also are some really great local places like towards Beckley and Raleigh County and everything, I love the ice salted caramel latte from What Iron. Have a feeling that like people might try it and they hate it, so like please don't be mean. Everyone is entitled to their opinions, like we have said multiple times. But I swear by their ice salted caramel latte, and their staff is incredible. So
I have heard a lot of good things about their staffing.
So
they're very
yeah.
Again, they're passionate about what they do.
And
so
shout out to
really...
their breakfast burrito. I think you should try their breakfast burrito sometime.
Well, I have not, so I will definitely have to go over
the big
there,
burrito, you heard it here, folks. watch they sell out or something. They're like, stop selling it. They're like, we're too busy.
Yeah, all the power.
Yeah, they're like, we're too busy. Like that one podcast guy brought it up. And okay.
So as we're rounding near our time limit, although it doesn't feel like we've been sitting here for almost 40 minutes.
It doesn't, no.
So if you were to say anything to people maybe thinking about coming to work at the summit, or youth that are getting close to the age of 18 where they are able to come work at the summit, what would you say to them to encourage them to come work at the summit, or any scouting program for that matter?
Do it. Would be my first thing. But the reason that working at a place like this, or a camp of any kind like this, the stuff that we do, there are so many unspoken skills that you get out of this. I knew how to public speak when I first worked here. I knew what to do when problems came about, or I knew how to handle conflict, but I didn't get tested until I worked here. And that rounded me so much to where I am today. You don't get the same personal people experience in other locations. So the biggest thing, like if I'm telling people that if you've never worked before, or you're about to start a first job, get a job that helps you with your people skills, that helps you with communicating, that helps you provide experiences to other people, because that is what you're going to get recognized for when you move on. All of us are going to move on, even myself, from the summit at some point. We're going to have different opportunities elsewhere, different jobs, and everywhere is looking for those people skills. And I think the summit, I think we do a good job training our staff about it.
Absolutely.
But also, like, it forces you to do it. It forces you to be comfortable with it. So like the skill development here is far beyond what people think a camp is. And you can rattle off a whole resume of skills just by spending 2 to 3 months even with us.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure you guys felt the same with, when you first summer worked here, it was a little scary, but then after the first summer, or even in the end of the first summer, you were like, wow, I can do these things now. it's not just a fun camp to work at. I actually gained a lot of skills I could take away from it. So I think that's a big thing I would tell people. It's not seen at first, but when you actually get into the depths of it, it really does change who you are as a person.
Absolutely. And I know one of the big things whenever I first come here is I knew it was a big camp, but I'm used to my home camp that's about 400 acres. We have about 30 to 50 staff, and so I was like, oh, probably be something around that. And then I get here, and it's just like we almost fill up the entire auditorium in Yamagata with just seasonal staff, and I'm like,
Right.
yeah, this ain't no small town production around here, is it? And so, but the people you meet here is just absolutely amazing. And some of the people I met here have become like really close friends, like Clifton, one of our last guests, Theo, even our team that I've only known for a month now. They're some of my closest friends now, because I mean, you spend so much time with each other and you live in the same area together.
Yeah.
And you even build bonds with full-time staff too, even though, you see them in passing, or, they're your full-time manager and you work with them, but you even build bonds with them, and like you get to know them. And that's one of the things that's very unique and amazing about working here, is just the bonds and the people that you meet. And it's such a diverse group of people that makes it incredible.
Right. No, 100% agree. This is a fantastic place. I mean, when I first started, I saw work as in a very hierarchical thing. So it's like you have me, boss, GM. There you go. You're done. And then when I started working here, and then after multiple years, I realized, it was kind of like a reverse pyramid. It was like, my bosses actually care about me, and their bosses care about them. And it was a much more supportive than I was, anticipating in a standard work environment. So that supportive nature is a really key characteristic of us here. So
100%. Like, I think of just like, even, whether it's like personally or in program or just, I mean, they don't call it wild and wonderful West Virginia for nothing.
Right.
Like, especially with just like the weather and, just kind of like the chaos, but like the good chaos, like I love it when it's busy, but it still can be a little crazy. I mean,
Right.
we obviously have to, so, but yeah, I will say, like, you are totally right in that. Like, I could not agree more. Like, this staff, and even just like the hierarchy of like how the different managers are, like everyone's super supportive, everyone's super friendly. I mean, even like, this being my third time, like there were full-time staff that I never even met before, or like barely spoke to last year, but now, like, I'm running into them at Fork, or like running into them at Piggott, and like seeing them, and being able to like actually chit chat and get to know people more. So
Right, for
it's a
sure.
really like positive environment where you actually can like feel supported, and like, like they, and like not even like they do care.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, 100%.
for sure.
Absolutely. And I know one thing, like a lot of businesses will say is like, oh yeah, one staff, one family, or stuff like that. But here, I've said it in previous episodes, I'm pretty sure, but here you feel it, because it's the intentionality that all the way up to the full-time staff, and even Rob Ridgway, our general manager, the intentionality that each interaction that you have with them it's you can just tell that whenever they say it, they mean it. And they will even back it up with every instance that they have with you. And I mean, that's one of the things that in my interview, whenever I came back this year, that's one of the things that I'm hit on was, you know, the big word for me for that interview was intentionality. And I feel like that's been my goal working here this year, especially, is making those intentional interactions with everyone, just so that way it's not just you go to work, or you wake up, you go eat breakfast, go to work, eat lunch, work again, go to dinner, go home. And that's what a lot of places are, but here it doesn't feel like that. It just feels like you're hanging out with a bunch of your friends.
Yeah, and I would add, one thing that I've been privileged to help is teaching our staff. So giving instruction, giving, how these are how you do certain things. One of those things is, how do you talk to one another? How do you resolve conflict, or how do you connect with people? And I live by these things that I call the connection axioms. And, the very first one on that list, and people are going to probably that know what I'm about to say are going to chuckle at me. But it's connect before you correct someone. And just putting the connection first is so important for everyone here at the summit. We might do it very professionally, we might do it, very casually, but I know we have a very, big effort to try to connect with people versus just trying to tell them how to do their jobs or tell them what they need to experience. So that's why I have the privilege being here for, and I'm glad that I get to share more and more of that with all of our team and our guests. So.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. That's a really awesome statement. I think our teleprompter is kind of signaling us that we should maybe start thinking about wrapping things up. I will hand off to Corey. But just again for myself, thank you everybody for watching. This has been a really exciting project that Corey and I and Alex, our producer, and just the media team in general has been super supportive on. And I just now that we're kind of getting in the groove of things, it's been just a lot more fun versus work. Obviously I don't think Corey and I ever really mind the work that we have to put in, but now that we kind of have our groove going a little bit, it's mostly fun now. So just again, thank you all for watching. And I'm gonna have Corey close us out.
Absolutely. So as a reminder, make sure if you want some of this amazing merch that we have on the table, or like this hat that I'm wearing, be sure you can go to store.summitbsa.org and use the discount code SUMMIT24 at checkout for 25% off on your online order. And Braxton, thank you once again for coming on. Thank you for your time. So I know I've definitely enjoyed the conversation, and I know Clifton has too. And so, everyone, make sure if you're not already, follow us on all of our social medias. Make sure you share this podcast with all your friends, so that way they can see it too. And we'll see you next week.